and welcome to the XIAM 3.0 webinar. My name is Yvonne Lee, Product Marketing Manager for Cortex, and I'll be your host today. Cortex XSIAM has already set a new benchmark for security operations, with a unified platform powered by comprehensive data, AI, and automation. Recently, we announced a major milestone to the platform with the launch of XIAM 3.0, introducing the new advanced email security and exposure management capabilities within XIAM. With this announcement, we're replacing decades-old approaches to vulnerability management and email security with cutting-edge AI-driven innovation. In today's webinar, we'll dive deep into how this announcement is going to change the game, not only for the SOC, but for security operations as a whole. With us today, we have Vice President of Product Management, Alad Koren, to discuss why this next phase of XIAM is truly revolutionary, as we merge shift left, proactive security, with shift right, real-time reactive prevention. From there, you'll get an exclusive first look at XIAM 3.0 and experience it in action for yourself with our product management team. Finally, we'll sit down with our very own Palo Alto Networks SOC team lead, Matt Mellon, as he discusses the importance of having a unified platform for not only the SOC, but across all security teams, including vulnerability management. So stay tuned, you won't want to miss it.
Hi everyone. Today we want to talk about XIAM 3.0. We are introducing XIAM 3.0, which is a huge innovation for us here in Cortex specifically and generally in Palo Alto Networks. But let's take a few steps backwards. Let's remember why we are here. The SOC, probably the noisiest area in the organization. The SOC is where things happen, where attacks need to be blocked. What we've identified here in Palo Alto Networks, specifically in Cortex, a while back, is that the human-centered SOC architecture just doesn't work. We see the rise in the number of alerts, and we see the number of tools used in the SOC. It actually is counterproductive. We've seen that. And by the way, we've seen that well before the AI and the fact that we've seen AI impacting everything in security. This is why we came up with the first generation of Cortex XSIAM. With the first generation of Cortex XSIAM, we were able to provide that real-time security operations that requires that single data platform. We were able to ingest so much data. We were able to have internal sources, external sources, all combined into one, stitch everything together, combine all the data, and have our AI and analytics run on top of this data. We all know that the result of the AI and the analytics is actually based on the data and the level and the accuracy of the data that it can ingest. With so much data available for the SOC, the ability to use then the right prioritization and to leverage the response and the automation is what made XIAM so great. By the way, it helped us get the basics of XDR, CDR, the SIEM, the SOAR use cases, and that helped us really remove away any silos, right? Take everything in one platform, take all the data, that unified data layer for the SOC, that and the unified SecOps, all in one tool, one UI, make sure that we can leverage the AI properly and run the automation. The results were astounding, right? We were able to take the SOC's efficiency, MTTR, from days to an hour, then later on to less than 10 minutes. You know, the way XIAM transformed the security operations for the world's largest companies, and the results were amazing, which is why we thought it would make a lot of sense to expand XIAM. And earlier this year, we came out with the second generation of Cortex XSIAM. We introduced Cortex Cloud. The cloud is a major problem, and it makes a lot of sense to have it in one centralized place along with XIAM. Let's take a look for a second, right? You have more and more applications going into the cloud with every day passing by. You have more and more exposures in the cloud. And even though there are many tools out there to solve this problem, you still have more and more attacks every day. Why? Let's ask ourselves, what is really required to have a good cloud solution? You need to shift left to solve things as early as possible. Here in Palo Alto Networks, it proved to reduce the level of risk in production by 92%. Then you also need to prioritize everything that you identify in production so that you can be really efficient with solving these things. And most importantly, is to be able to stop sophisticated attacks right then and there, which is why we came out with Cortex Cloud, as I mentioned. Cortex Cloud is being able to really taking everything together to that unified platform. We took everything that we learned throughout the years with Prisma Cloud, and we really evolved that into a unified Cortex Cloud on top of the Cortex platform as part of XSIAM to really transform everything in cloud, starting with AppSec, posture, runtime protection, and even the SOC. The SOC that never had a native cloud solution to really solve what the SOC would need in the cloud. Later today, you'll hear Matt talk about their experience, our own SOC leader. And you'll hear how this is transformative for them to be able to really see in runtime, in the SOC, what happened from an exposure or cloud level. This is the future of security, being able to really tie together and connect all the pieces from code to cloud to runtime and SOC. Now this, in Cortex, also introduces the best-in-class runtime protection. With years of experience and what we've done with XDR, now bringing it to the cloud and tying all the pieces together, this is the key. And we are expanding this across the enterprise. We are introducing Cortex XSIAM 3.0. With XSIAM 3.0, we are able to now take everything that we've done in the cloud and combine the peacetime and the wartime across the enterprise. Being able to introduce that proactive security and combine it with the reactive security that is also required for organizations today. Being able to ingest once all the sources of information, follow that Cortex methodology of richness in data, applying the AI, then running the automation piece and making sure that we can really be that force multiplier for organizations and be able to provide that holistic view and holistic solution from a platform standpoint. And with XSIAM 3.0, we're introducing the proactive security, exposure management piece, being able to look at that risk level management across the enterprise, not just cloud, extend it to the endpoints and to the network and all around the estate of the organization, and combine it with that runtime reactive protection capabilities, that email security combined with network that we already have and the XDR level protection. That really brings everything into that XSIAM platform to provide organizations with everything they need to protect every single asset out there, including the entry point with emails, as well as be able to analyze in peacetime all the major threats that they have. You'll soon hear more about those two from our product managers, and I'm excited about that. I'm sure you are as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Guy Mazeltrim, Lead Product Manager for Cortex Email Security at Palo Alto Networks. Today, I'm going to walk you through how we are redefining email security, not as a standalone tool, but as a fully integrated part of the Cortex platform. Let's start with what has changed. We are in a new era where Gen AI has weaponized phishing. Attackers now write emails that look and feel real, fast, targeted, and convincing. These aren't spam. They are personalized attacks at scale. And most tools just aren't built for it. Traditional security gateways and built-in protections follow a perimeter mindset. If the threat gets past the perimeter, they lose visibility. And when they respond, they can only address the email, maybe the identity piece if you are lucky. Because of that, the market is shifting to address the new Gen AI challenges. More and more customers are shifting away from legacy security gateways and relying on native email security. It's simple and built-in, but it still doesn't connect the dots. Modern threats don't stay in email. They move across channels, and that's the real challenge. Now, let's be fair. Native email security solutions like Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace do a great job handling the basics. They block spam, stop known malware, catch the obvious stuff. But attackers have leveled up. They are using stealthy impersonation tactics, contextual language, behavioral tricks, things that don't always trigger the built-in defenses. That's where this new class of email security comes in, and it brings in all the heavy hitters: advanced phishing protection, account takeover detection, executive and supplier impersonation, and others. And it's not about replacing the native tools. It's about adding an extra layer for catching the things they weren't built to see. So let me show you what that looks like with Cortex email security, starting from detection through investigation to response. Beginning with the foundation, data. We collect data from 4 core sources: email, endpoint, network, and identity. And here's the best part. If you're already using Cortex, you already have the data. No duplicate connectors, no extra overhead. We simply build on top of what you already ingest. Then comes the alert defense. Artifact-based insights that scan links and attachments, both static and dynamically. Behavioral analytics that surface abnormal patterns related to the metadata of the emails. And lastly, an LLM-powered NLP that reads between the lines, understanding urgency, tone, and intent. And catching the threat, that's just step 1. Next comes investigation. We don't just show you issues, we show you the full story of the attack. In order to do that, we connect what happened, when, and to whom from different domains, including endpoint and identity. You get a full timeline of impacted users and devices, and one clear view to work from. Finally, everything comes together in the email command center, your centralized hub for risk visualization and response. Here, we don't just show you what's happening across users, devices, and communications. We empower you to act. With smart score-driven prioritization, Cortex highlights the riskiest activity and recommends the next best step. Whether it's isolating an endpoint, locking an identity, or pulling an email, you can remediate across every surface automatically or manually, all in one place. It's not just visibility. It's connected cross-domain defense in motion. So, what makes us better, you ask? Well, first off, it's built right on top of Cortex platform. No extra deployment, no separate console. We're using the same data you already collect in Cortex: email, endpoint, identity, and network, without duplicating anything. Second, we're bringing LLM-powered analysis to really understand what's happening in the email: the tone, the urgency, the intent. Third, we stitch everything together. Instead of siloed issues, you get a connected storyline, from the first email all the way to lateral movement or exfiltration. And when it's time to respond, you are not jumping between tools. You are taking action from one place, backed by Smart Score with full visibility. Now, let's bring it to life. In this short demo, you will see how Cortex detects, investigates, and responds across email, identity, and device, all in one unified platform. We begin with the email command center. On the left, you will see the flow of data coming into Cortex. Whether it's new email data or existing signals from endpoint, identities, or network, we're extending the value of what you already have. From there, Cortex automatically surfaces issues using detection engines built specifically for modern email threats. These are grouped into high-fidelity cases, dramatically reducing alert fatigue and helping analysts focus on what matters most. You will also see how many cases were mediated automatically or manually based on your automation policies, and how many are still queued, fully enriched, and ready for review. To stay ahead of evolving threats, we highlight threatening attack vectors, identify risky users using Smart Score, and recommend automated actions to close the loop on threats with confidence. Now, let's switch to the second screen, the investigation experience. This view is built specifically for email-borne threats that may propagate to endpoints or identities. On the left, you get an executive summary, campaign details, related issues, affected assets, and timeline context. Analysts can then dive into the interactive graph, tracing threat propagation, actions taken, and endpoint impact. We also include a social graph showing historical interactions between the sender and recipients, making communication anomalies easy to spot. Want to examine the email itself? You can. Full subject and body, plus LLM-powered insights that explain what made it suspicious, right there in context. And when it's time to respond, you take action directly from this same screen with Cortex-powered automation at your fingertips. This is what modern email security looks like: connected, contextual, and built for the threats of today. Now that we saw what it looks like, let's see an example of how Cortex Advanced Email Security was able to identify and remediate an email attack. So an email was sent to one of our beta customers' external mailboxes, a highly targeted address from a previous unseen domain. It used urgency and impersonation tactics, claiming the recipient's account was about to expire and urging them to upgrade or visit a support page. On the surface, nothing seemed alarming. Proofpoint marked it as safe, Microsoft skimmed spam filtering, AURL, our internal static analysis engine, classified the URL as benign, and VirusTotal as just 10 out of 94 vendors flagged the link. But by combining multiple weak signals and use sender domain, suspicious tone, urgency language, and the fact that it targeted a sensitive role, Cortex recognized the real risk and prevented the threat from manifesting and causing greater impact. So, to wrap it up, a bad email isn't just a bad email. It's often the beginning of something much bigger: identity compromise, lateral movement, or even full-blown breach. 2. Legacy tools don't see the full picture. They look at email in isolation, missing what happens next. And 3. Cortex Advanced Email Security changes that. With LLMs, multi-channel insights, and unified response, we help you to stop threats faster and smarter. And it's already been into Cortex. Email is the gateway to your organization. How confident are you that your current setup is ready to address email attacks in the age of Gen AI? Reach out to your Palo Alto Networks representative to level up your email security. Thank you for watching. I can't wait for you to try it.
What we saw was somebody who was changing the game in terms of reinventing the way we think about the SIEM technology. We look at the promise of what we're seeking for XSIAM and where we're seeing the benefits is the ability to more effectively consolidate the visibility through all that data, to make sense of it, and the ability to then rapidly accelerate creating runbooks and use cases out of that data in order to drive our response and our decision making. And the relationship between Palo Alto Networks and Cognizant is one that I get to see come into real life in terms of how we're going to transform and how we're re-envisioning our entire security program.
Hey everyone, super excited to talk about exposure management today. Vulnerability management is very important in keeping your organization secure. It is a hard problem and enterprises put a lot of effort and time into this. The question is, why now? When we look at what is going on with vulnerability management, it is actually failing, not helping in reducing risk to customers. Tons of vulnerabilities are published every day. No one is able to keep up with it. Most organizations have more than 100,000 vulnerabilities in their backlog. Not only that, most of these don't even matter. A very few of these are actually exploitable in the wild, and far fewer are exposed to the internet. We see there are layered defenses that are deployed, which avoid exploitation. And we see a lot of wasted effort in chasing the risks that don't matter. With AI, vulnerabilities have become more relevant now. attackers are learning to exploit these faster and faster. The data, which was published recently, shows that 1/3 of these vulnerabilities that were exploited in this first quarter were exploited in less than 24 hours. Manual processes and humans cannot keep up with this pace. We need to bring in AI and automation to help here. And that is what we have done. Cortex Exposure Management gathers all the context from native and third-party sources, analyzes and prioritizes with AI to identify the risks that matter to you. Not only that, connect that with existing protections and mitigations that you have deployed. Then use automation to drive full remediation. AI and automation is needed to do all of this in near real time. Cortex offers a robust set of scanners to assess every asset across environments, be it endpoint, cloud, enterprise, or OT and IoT. We also facilitate bringing in data from third-party scanners. We take all of these data, apply analytics, specifically AI-based analytics, to understand the risks that matter to you. Actively test them to see if they are actually exploitable and pinpoint at the real risks that need attention today. XSIAM offers two parts to remediation. One, how do I leverage automation to identify owners and follow the traditional path of patching and upgrading? This works for most of your backlog. The other path is to provide AI-driven recommendations to mitigate risk. While the traditional processes may take days or weeks to patch, deploying compensating controls offers immediate protection against threats. Let me quickly show you how this looks like in Cortex XSIAM. What you see here is Exposure Management Command Center. We get data from all the native sources, Palo Alto Networks sources, and also the third-party sources. We get all of this data, in this case, 1.2 million vulnerabilities. We crunch those, identify what the risks that matter to you, and provide you with the cases that requires your attention today. Let's look at what goes in identifying 479 cases from 865K unique vulnerabilities. What we do is take 1.2 million vulnerabilities, understand what are those duplicative findings are from various sources, remove them from basic cases. Then looking at the remaining, we look at, hey, what's the most important to you, what's exposed to the internet, look at what's highly exploitable, what has low business impact, unlikely to be exploited again. We look at what's most important for you based on, is it internet exposed? Does it have any business impact? Is it highly exploitable? And so on and so forth. And we also provide you capabilities to deprioritize by policy. What do we mean? You could actually go back and customize and remove the vulnerabilities which you don't care. For example, you may have an honeypot on which you don't care about vulnerabilities. You could go back and define that piece and remove all those vulnerabilities that don't matter to you. We give you ability to customize and remove them from your backlog. When I say all of these are dropped on the floor, they're actually not out of the system. They are still there, but it's out of your view. And you could take these and export it and provide it to an auditor or anyone who wants to look at the backlog of vulnerabilities. Now, the remaining, in this case, the 17,000 issues here, are the actual risks that matter to you. We don't stop there. We take a quick look at these things, employ our AI-based systems to understand how do we consolidate these, understand the mitigation controls that may be existing to help provide protections to these vulnerabilities. Once you take this into account, we combine them based on what shared fixes they have. That will consolidate all of your 70,000 issues to mere 500 cases. And that's where our automation kicks in. Our automation will actually put them into various buckets based on what decisions it could make. And only the top items that need analysts' attention today are put in require attention. What you see here is an auditor's view, where you can quickly audit what are the most important vulnerabilities that you need to take care of. It has all the high important metrics that you care about. Mean time to triage, mean time to resolve, how many issues you have, how many assets that are affected, so on and so forth. It also provides you at a quick bird's eye view of what are the recommended actions that you could take on each of these cases. Let's jump into one of these cases. What you see here is a recent vulnerability about Apache Tomcat. Now, our system was able to find this vulnerability. It was 15 instances of them. Instead of creating 15 issues, we created one case. And that case gives you all the required risk information. And not only that, when you look at the detail, it gives you a full causality chain. The chain tells you that, hey, we were able to exploit this vulnerability from the internet using our attack surface testing technology. Now, what we found is that this particular server where the vulnerability was found has an XDR agent on it. But the XDR agent doesn't have a CV exploit protection enabled. Our system quickly identifies that, provides you a recommended action where you could actually deploy this exploit protection. Click on this. There you go. Quickly, our automation system goes in, deploys this profile on the agent, and helps you protect against exploitation. Now, at this point, what you see is this particular case has been mitigated but not remediated. The risk is dropped, and you can take your regular steps to go and patch this vulnerability on your cycle. Hope you found this useful. Looking forward to experiencing it yourself. Next up, Elad Koren and Matt Malone.
So I'm so glad that you can be with us today. Today, we have Matt with us. Matt, hi.
Hi.
Oh, good to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
Oh, I'm glad. So why don't you tell us a bit about the Palo Alto Networks SOC?
Yeah, so our internal SOC's mission is to detect and respond to cyber attacks targeting Palo Alto Networks. So we have 13 SOC analysts who use a lot of automation and high fidelity threat detections through our Cortex XSIAM product to run relatively lean, given that we're a 20,000 person company. And just for some context, we have a pretty large public-facing attack surface of about 200,000 public IPs and an even bigger internal attack surface with over 4 million VMs, 1 million containers growing about 10% every month. So there's no shortage of interesting challenges for our vulnerability management team to tackle.
That's a lot of estate.
Indeed.
Why don't you talk to us about the vulnerability management and some of the challenges you're facing, I assume almost on a daily, if not more frequent than that basis.
Yeah. I mean, our vulnerability management team is a separate team from the SOC. There's 6 people in it who report up to me as the Senior Director of Security Operations. And their mission is to find and communicate vulnerabilities to the right teams across our business so we can get those remediated and bottom line, reduce risk for the company. So with this kind of scale in vulnerability management, the biggest challenges we face are, number 1, prioritizing the right fixes, and then number 2, dealing with the huge amount of engineering work required to run our vuln management operations. So like prioritization is really important to get right when you're dealing with millions of vulnerabilities, and being able to answer the question, which of the vulnerabilities do I need to get fixed first to avoid an incident, is really key. And then all of the engineering around the data flows from the different vulnerability sources to get them in the same single repository, deduplicating them, enriching them with threat intel, identifying which are public facing, which ones are exploitable, etc., is no easy task. So frankly, it's what my 6-person vuln management team spends a lot of their time doing.
As you were talking, I thought all of this with 6 people, that's pretty amazing. So I assume you have the technologies that you've used that historically were part of the way you addressed all this vulnerability management requirements and the things for you to manage that. Talk to us about the technologies that you've been using throughout.
Yeah, so our previous strategy was to basically build lots of custom tools. So we built our data pipelines to get all of our vuln data from these disparate systems that were finding vulnerabilities into a big GCP database where we attempted to deduplicate and enrich on the fly. It was a ton of work to build and support that. It was prone to breakage, and frankly, it was pretty frustrating that I had to build something so custom.
Yeah, not surprising, and you know, we are talking beyond this one, and one thing that I know you've already started is looking at bringing all of your vulnerability management piece of work into XSIAM and kind of focusing on looking at your best practices around your XSIAM and Cortex platform. So tell us about the improvements that you've been seeing in this process throughout.
Yeah, well, we've already migrated to Cortex XSIAM's attack surface testing product for our public-facing vulnerability scanning. It does a really good job at identifying exploitable vulnerabilities on our public attack surface. We found it very accurate as well. Haven't found a false positive yet, which is something very important to us. And we've started to use XSIAM playbooks as well to automate some of our vulnerability triage work. So for example, our playbooks confirm that the exposure is still present, retrieve the owners from the cloud tags, and enforce a consistent process for our vulnerability management engineers to follow.
Yeah. So, by the way, false positives is a huge problem and huge pain. So I hear you on this one, and not even to that extent, to a broader extent. Can you elaborate a bit more of how much is it really important to have everything in a unified platform and have the vulnerability management be really a part of that broader SOC view and your entire posture management view?
Yeah, it is important to have everything on a unified platform because it's a simpler architecture for me and my team to maintain. So I don't want my team going out and building custom databases and managing scripts to identify the highest priority vulnerabilities. I want a SaaS product to handle all that engineering complexity for me. So having the SOC and the vulnerability management teams using the same platform, to me, makes a lot of sense because, number one, automation. We need to bring the same sort of automation-focused philosophy that's helped SOC teams be successful to the vulnerability management teams. And there's a lot of work for the vulnerability management teams to do manually. And then number two, SOC teams often need vulnerability data when they're working an incident. So, I mean, the first thing that a SOC incident responder needs to do in response to a cloud incident is figuring out how the compromise occurred, which could have been enabled by vulnerability. So all this to say, fewer tools, less engineering, and more automation is the way. So I hope and I plan to transition my 6-person vuln management team from doing lots of data engineering toward doing more actual vulnerability analysis and balancing the risk and business needs. And to me, that is what a super mature vulnerability management team should be focusing on. And that's why I'm excited about the new exposure management capabilities coming to Cortex. It's going to bring that automation that we need to our vuln management operations, reduce the engineering work so that we can zero in quickly on what we need to prioritize.
Yeah, thanks for this, and I couldn't agree more. It could be a force multiplier for many other organizations, and thanks for taking us through the journey and everything you experienced. Naturally, the magnitude and things we have here, it's huge, so many other organizations can definitely learn from your experience here. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Using a platform like XSIAM and the AI tools available with it will allow us to consolidate that information, identify it, and respond to it much quicker.
What I love about Palo Alto Networks is they're always constantly innovating. And I know that with the 3.0 version for XSIAM, we'll have some great enhancements like email security and exposure management.
Well, there you have it. XSIAM 3.0 really is the only security operations platform you need. To learn more about XSIAM 3.0 and learn how it can help your organization, reach out to a Palo Alto Networks sales representative today. Thank you for joining us and for trusting Palo Alto Networks to be your security partner of choice. Until next time, stay safe.